Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways, Torah life.
Hello everybody, it's Paul Neeson with Torah Life Ministries, and we have this week's Torah portion. This is Torah portion number 10 of the cycle, and we're moving along here, and we continue, and we see the story of Joseph, and last week we saw how he was brought into slavery by his brothers, sold into slavery, and we were left off there where he interpreted the dreams of the chief bearer and the baker in the jail. Well, it starts off this week that he was forgotten because when the chief cupbearer was told him he said, remember me when you go to Pharaoh, that I interpreted your dream well. The cupbearer didn't remember him at that time. And it starts off, it says, this week, Torah portion from 41:1 to Genesis 44:1 to 44:17, and it starts off right here in 41:1. It says, at the end of 2 years, Pharaoh had a dream, and then the story continues. So we see the chief cupbearer, he did not remember Joseph until Pharaoh had this dream 2 years later. So you can just imagine Joseph in this dungeon, in a place where nobody would want to be. He has a glimmer of hope when he translates the dream of the chief cupbearer in a positive way, and it comes true. And his last words to the chief cupbearer are, remember me in front of Pharaoh and let him know that I interpreted your dream successfully. And then he sat there for 2 years, and he didn't hear anything. So you could see how his hope probably diminished. And you know, a lot of people ask questions about this week's Torah portion, and the main question that comes to a lot of people's mind is, Joseph was only a 6-day journey from his father and his brothers. And the question becomes is, why didn't he go and see his father earlier, or call for his father or his brothers earlier? Now, he was there for 22 years, and he obviously still had a love in his heart for them, because when they finally came to see them, he was just overwhelmed with emotion. You know, so why didn't he go call at least his younger brother in 22 years if he was only 6-day trip away from where everyone else was? He certainly had the resources to do so. And, you know, many people suspect many different things, but we have to remember that when Joseph was, you know, with his family, you know, his brothers did not envy him. His brothers really hated him. Hated him, it says twice in last week's Torah portion, more and more. And his father loved him more than his other brothers, but Joseph did not know the situation. Joseph could have been sitting there saying, where is my father? Why has my father not come for me? He didn't know if his brothers went back and said, well, you know, we sold him to some people that sold him to Egypt and as a slave. All Jacob knew was Joseph was dead. But Joseph didn't know that he was dead. So there could have been some bitterness on Joseph's part, or at least some thought in Joseph's mind that, you know, maybe my father doesn't want me to come back because he's not coming to get me. He didn't know his father wasn't alive. He didn't know that his father didn't know that he was alive. It's almost like a very bad soap opera. You hear these soap operas today and all this other stuff, but it's a true story. But Yahweh has a plan, and his plan came true. And it says here, you know, after 2 years of sitting in this dungeon, it says here in Genesis 41:14, then Pharaoh summoned Joseph, and they brought him quickly out to the dungeon. You know, so he got cleaned up, and he went in front of Pharaoh. So in an instant, things change. And it's a great idea, or a great metaphor to see that no matter how dim things seem in your life, no matter how bad they are, in an instant, they can change. We have to understand, you know, I have people call me up on a daily basis that have been stricken with a disease. There's no hope. The doctors are pretty much giving them a death sentence. And I'm telling you, just like I turned my health around, now it's not always in an instant, you know, but when that information comes, it's in an instant that we get it. And it changes. It's amazing. So it's a good example here. Joseph was in the dungeon, not only for 2 years, for many years, but it was 2 years since he thought he was going to be taken out. since he told the dream, he translated the dream of the chief cupbearer. But then in an instant, one morning he wakes up and all of a sudden here they come, they say, Pharaoh wants to see you clean up. He cleans up, he goes there. And not only did he get out of the dungeon, but he was made in charge second in all of Egypt because he translated the dream correctly. But Joseph didn't just translate the dream of Pharaoh correctly. What he did was he gave him a plan of how to handle that. You know, many times when I used to be a boss on Wall Street, a problem used to be presented to me and I'd have to figure it out. And I'd figure it out. But that's why they like me, because I figured out a solution to the plan. I didn't just give them the problem. I figured out a solution to the problem. And that's a very important thing in business or just in life. It's not just having a problem, it's figuring out a solution. Here I am, I'm a father of family now. I have to figure out a solution to any issue that comes up. I can't just say, we have an issue. Well, Joseph didn't just tell Pharaoh with the dream that they have an issue. He gave them a plan, a good plan. And he was succeeded out of that. And we have to think about that this week. It says here, Joseph was discreet and wise. That's how we have to be. We have to be wise, and we have to have a good plan for all the situations in today's world. But Yahweh will provide. He will give us a way out. There's always a way out. You know, if you're facing a dark tunnel, you know, you have to understand that there's a light at the end, and it's not always a headlight coming at you. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. So we have to see that there is always a plan, a way out, but we have to be wise about the situation. Now, Pharaoh had this dream about some thinky-looking cows eating the good cows, and he had a dream some good crops being destroyed by the bad crops. You know, and Joseph interpreted that plan. This is what's going to happen. You're going to have some good years, then you're going to have some bad years. So he gave them the plan. Save up during the good years, so when the bad years come, you'll be ready. Interpreted today, save for a rainy day. Don't just go spending everything and doing everything. Be a good steward of your money. Be wise about your money. I want to recommend everyone out there about money to listen to somebody named Dave Ramsey. He has a website, DaveRamsey.com. He has an internet show on iPod, and even has a show on TV. But if you watch one of my other videos, I don't recommend you have a TV, so get to it on the internet or somewhere else. But we have to be good stewards of our money. You know, as men, we have to be our roles and be good, wise plans and be able to handle every situation with patience, delicate, discreet, and with wisdom. Just like Joseph did. And the most important thing, never, ever, ever give up hope, no matter where things are. You know, remember, we have Yeshua, so we don't have to worry about the things of the world. We're supposed to be a set-apart people. We're not supposed to have the same sorrows, the same worries, and the same fears as the world. We are a different people. We are set apart. When you accept Yeshua as your Messiah, something is supposed to happen. Your heart is supposed to change. And that sorrow and fear of the world is to be taken away. It even says in the scriptures, have no fear of these things in the world. We have to go back, and we look back when Joseph was in that ditch and they were going to take him out and sell him. He pleaded with his brothers not to. It says here in Genesis 42:21 that Joseph was in distress when he was in that ditch, and he pleaded with us not to do this, but we didn't listen to him. And now look at the situation we're in. So we go back to last week and we see Joseph didn't just calmly go with the merchants when he was sold to them. He pleaded with his brothers, don't do this, please don't do this. And they didn't listen. And now here the brothers in this week's Torah portion, they see they're in a situation, and this is why. And then we look at further into 43:11. The father, Jacob, Israel, said to his brothers, if that's how it is, do this. And that's after his brothers presented the case that we went down to Pharaoh. There was this man there who amazingly knew everything about us, and he was asking more and more about us, and he even seated us in the right order. And then he took Joseph's younger brother to be held captive until his other brothers came back with the father. And this distressed Israel so much. It distressed Jacob so much. He says, if that's how it is, then do this. So that's another way to handle our plans. Well, if that's the reality, we have to take some action. If that's the reality of what's going on, we have to have a wise plan and take action. And then it shows here exactly what happened. He gave them a plan. Now this was amazing, and this amazed me most about this week's Torah Parashah. We see here was his plan. He says, take in your risen a little honey, some gum, opium, pistachio nuts, and almonds. Now we have to understand, these were considered amazing gifts at those times, but what made it so amazing is it was everything they had. And how do I know that? Because it said the land was so scarce, they had so little that they had to go down to Egypt to buy food. So here he is, given at the time his most valuable possessions, the only food they have to live. It says here, take these as a gift to the man to please him. You see, just like Jacob had a plan when he went to meet his brother. What did he do? We saw a couple of weeks ago. He sent gifts ahead of his brother. But at that time, he had an abundance of these things that he sent in front of his brother. The flocks and all the other things that he sent for his brother. He had an abundance of them, so it wasn't as much value. But now we see here, many years later, Jacob, in such distress over losing one son and now possibly losing another son. And what did he do? He took gifts to send. This time, though, it was different because this was everything they had. So it was so much more of a value. So we have to have a wise plan, everybody. And we have to understand that Yahweh has a way out when we're a good steward with what he has given us. And we see here the lessons that Jacob had learned in his time. And he wasn't selfish. He went to give everything he had to save his son. And he was in such distress when he saw the issue with his sons. Again, his children meant everything to him. The love of his life, the wives, he took care of them. He always had a wise plan, and he took action. And that's what we have to have. And Joseph followed. Joseph had a wise plan, and he took action. And so these are the things we must learn. And that's this week's Torah Parashah, everybody. And everybody, I just want to say that, it's Hanukkah right now, so Yahweh bless you with the wonderful season of Hanukkah. And again, the Maccabees had a plan, and things seemed dim for them, but they had hope, and they had a plan, and they had faith, and they persevered, just like Joseph did, just like Jacob did, and if you're a believer in Yahweh and Yeshua, just like you will. Everybody, until next week, this is Paul Nisa with Torah Life Ministries saying, Hallelujah, and bless you all. We'll see you soon.
Come out of the world, oh my people, seek the truth, avoid the evil, learn Yahweh's ways.